Michael. What is going on? Welcome, Playmakers. It is Tuesday, December 29th, 2020. Welcome to the Working the Wire podcast. I am your host, Big Play Blake. Give me a follow over on Twitter at Big Play Blake. The gentleman to my left, your right, the advocate for avocado toast, the sultan of social distancing, the connoisseur of craft beer, a cleanly shaven Big Play Beats. What's going on, brother?
Oh, I had to, for the last week, I just wanted to show it off a little bit, get rid of that awful beard that was attempting to grow on my face. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The one with the bosh on it, I take it, you started to be looking like Grizzly Adams?
Oh, yeah. Grizzly Adams would be a compliment compared to how terrible my beard comes in. The patches. I always have the mic right here. There's just a spot right there. Nothing. Baby's bottom smooth. Oh, yeah. So I'm clean. I'm ready to go. Yeah. Also,
I love it. How was your holiday, buddy?
It was good. It was capped off yesterday with a championship, so I feel pretty good.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. I had Alvin Kamara, and I did not go against Devontae Adams or Stephon Diggs. I felt pretty good. How was your holiday, Blake?
It was good. We actually we hosted for the first time this year. A little small group, just in-laws and aunts and uncles for the little one, his first Christmas. So nothing too crazy. We're used to these big, massive family gatherings. My wife, she has a very large family, and we enjoy hanging out with them. And obviously, it kind of stinks this year not being able to do that. But obviously, it's for the best interest of everybody. As I mentioned on the show in the past, her grandfather, was dealing with COVID and different things. So, which he's home and on the right track back to being healthy now. So that's good. We're thankful for that. But yeah, just did a small little group this year, 2 different days, and it was good, man. Unfortunately, I got Cole in my fantasy stocking, though, my friend. I dropped the belt, and I see you tormenting it with me over there this corner.
Yeah.
Over that way. I see you tormenting me with it. You know what, Mike? I'm calling it a consolatory prize. I didn't win the belt, but neither did medium play Kayla, so that's fine. We're good.
You're good with that. Okay.
I'm good with that. Anybody but my sister this year.
Yeah.
Because now I don't have to listen to her for the next 6 months. So, but guys, like I said, welcome to the Working the Wire podcast. We are live every Tuesday at 9:30 Eastern. We offer last minute advice every Sunday. Use our hashtag AskWTW. You see it right below you here. If you have any fantasy football questions over on Twitter, we will get them on the show or answer them live every Sunday morning. So, but Mike, let's jump right in, my friend, and let's start out with something that is going to hit a little close to home for you as a Cleveland Browns fan, my friend. And we'll talk about the only franchise making their new year worse by winning, and that's the New York Jets, who had a surprising upset victory over the wide receiver-less Cleveland Browns on Sunday. A story for another time. Mike, this locks the Jags in as the number 1 overall selection, and I would say, and you can agree or disagree, it's a foregone conclusion, right, that they're going to go with Clemson standout quarterback Trevor Lawrence with the number 1 pick. And Mike, if you're Trevor Lawrence, you have to be pumped about this situation, right? Like you didn't have to come out and say you didn't want to play for the Jets. You didn't have to pull the Eli Manning, as people were calling it. Mike, was this the best case scenario for Trevor Lawrence?
I would say best case scenario, but as the weeks were dwindling down, I would say it is the best case now.
Absolutely.
I think Adam Gase and the New York Jets, the ownership group, everything, just an absolute dumpster fire. Look, I think Jacksonville ownership, the Cons, make decent business decisions. They're ahead on the analytics. Look, clearly the Jets just don't. Look, I'm not a fan of tanking, but why wouldn't you for Trevor Lawrence? I mean, he is the best lock since Andrew Luck, right?
Yeah, just about.
And I mean, until he retired, that guy was an absolute stud. So the thing that does scare me a little bit in Jacksonville, they do have issues at tackle. It's actually the whole offensive line. It's a poor group at best. They have 0 starters in the top 15 for their positions on that offensive line. That does make me nervous for a rookie quarterback. Hopefully they do something where they bring him along, take their time before they unleash him to the wolves and get his ass kicked. But they have great skilled positions. I think
I agree with that lineman take. I think they have the second best offensive line in the state of Florida.
The state of Florida, is that saying a lot though?
No, it's not. But I think the Dolphins have a worse offensive line. We'll talk a little bit about that.
The Dolphins have a terrible offensive line, and they missed with a high draft pick last year. Yeah, he's really struggling this year. But like they do have good skilled positions, and I think that is something that they can lean their hat on. They can expect that offense to do pretty well. But I think you mentioned the Browns a little bit. Last year, you could have a sexy skill group, but if it does not mean a thing if you can't win in the trenches. So that's where I think it's not the perfect scenario, but oh my gosh, is it better than the Jets? Anything is better than the Jets.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I agree, Mike. I think it's 100% a better scenario, number one. Just overall, obviously you get to play in Florida. You're likely going to come in with a new head coach at the same time, right? So the system we built around you specifically. So I think they're in a good position when it comes to that. A better ownership group and really a better front office in general, Mike. And I say that because the Jets strike me as a team and an organization that doesn't necessarily have a bunch of bad pieces in the organization, but just doesn't seem to be on the same page. And that's where I look at it. We look back at, and I'll open up this can of worms. We look at some of those late 2000s, early 2010s Browns teams where it's like they had all these pieces that made sense, but just couldn't put it together. And I look at the Jets kind of in the same lens as they have guys that we all thought, like Sam Darnold and some pieces on that defense that on paper made sense and just don't right now. And that's from the top down. That's from ownership down to the play on the field. It just isn't working. And I think the Jags are already moving in that direction. I think they did a lot. I think there was a lot of organizational continuity with what they did this offseason. Everybody kind of was alarmed at how much they did by releasing, or trading guys like Ronnie Harrison and Jalen Ramsey and things. But
yeah,
Mike, in order to build, you sometimes have to tear down first, and good organizations know that. So,
yeah, they opened up their cap space, right?
Right, they opened it up, knowing that this was probably the likely scenario. So, and you mentioned the weapons. How do you complain with DJ Shark, Keelan Cole? If he does come back, he's obviously on an expiring contract. They got Laviska Shenault Jr.
I'm a fan of Laviska.
Also, he's a solid guy. D.D. Westbrook, who is pretty unmentionable this year, is not a bad fourth option when you look at fourth options around the league. I mean, they have
2 years ago, he was like a late round darling for a lot of people, right? D.D. Westbrook, if he was coming, people were high on him.
Right. You look at a guy like Tyler Eifert, who's kind of on the back nine of his career, but a guy that's not bad, right? He's not terrible. So I think, Mike, they already have that running game established with James Robinson. You mentioned the offensive line needs a little bit of work, which they could address in free agency after opening up all that cap space. So, with Trevor Lawrence, Mike, the Jags offense could be dynamic day one. Especially if they get a coach that comes in and can build that offense and suit it to his strengths. Yeah. I mean, with him and Robinson, look out.
I am excited about the prospects of him there for sure. Hey, we got a good question here from Fabian Vasquez. Look, pick one quarterback, Cam, Tua, or Hurts. I think I know both of our answers.
Oh, man.
This leads to something later.
I don't know, Mike. I'll let you go first. I don't think
fantasy wise, I'm taking Hurts right now. If you're saying right now, long term, Tua over the other two easily. If I had to pick this week for fantasy, I'm going Jalen Hurts, but
probably Hurts this week. They're going against, I believe, the Cowboys. Or no, I'm sorry, they're playing who are they playing this week?
The Washington football team.
Don't know that I'd necessarily go Hurts. Well,
it's a meaningful football game.
Meaningful football game. So yeah, I'd probably go Hurts.
And he also has something to prove.
And you said Tua moving forward, Mike.
Yes.
I like Tua. Well, I have a Tua hot take coming up here in the next segment.
Yeah, I was alluding to that a little bit. That's why I thought we would agree.
But I would actually say Hurts is going to be just as good.
Just as good. Wow.
Just as good.
All right. And that's after having a rougher week, right?
Yeah, and I'm not saying he's going to be, bounds and strides better, but they could be, right in that same tier, right? We always talk about tiers on this show, and I think him and Tua will be in the same tier in the next 3 to 5 years.
Is Cam droppable? Yes. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cam should have been off your roster 3 weeks ago.
If you're in a season-long league where it's high points or something like that, or this a 2-week final, or this is they just pushed your final to this week, you should not trust Cam this week. I would take pretty much anybody.
Yeah,
He's just so inconsistent.
Most leagues at this point in the year are total points leagues, and Cam's not going to get you any form of points this week. So, especially if that Jets defense played like it did the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, which was completely out of their mind. Mike, speaking of things that are out of their mind, a lot of people are scratching their heads at this one that aren't from Pittsburgh. Everybody in Pittsburgh loves this, and that's the Steelers are going to sit Ben Roethlisberger this week. Mike Tomlin announced it in his weekly press conference today. They're going to set the veteran for some much-needed rest during the Week 17 matchup against the Browns. He also alluded to some other players possibly taking the week off. We'll obviously see who that ends up being throughout the week. Obviously, he determined, he said how practices go, things like that. So he's going to take a look at that from a macro standpoint. But, Mike, in steps Mason Rudolph, Week 17 against the Browns to take on his arch nemesis, Myles Garrett, and the Cleveland Browns.
That Mike, timing is too good.
So
in the
good.
Chat, do you see that? Dave, big play Dave. He's the
timing, Dave.
The Cleveland the big play reflog show. That's perfect timing. We're talking Cleveland here a little bit. We got another question here from Fabian. Hurts long term. I say yes. If it's a fan, if
you're in a dynasty league where it's where you're keeping, more. It depends on how many players you're keeping, right? If you're keeping 3, that's a lot different than keeping 6, right?
Yeah.
Hurts long term. He's a guy I'm looking at, mid to late rounds next year, probably later rounds to pick up. As a second, my backup quarterback, and he could develop into a fantasy darling through Week 10.
Yeah.
You never know. So
that Wentz seems to have soured completely there. So, yeah, let's get back to Cleveland. Sorry about that.
No, you're good, man. So, like I said, in steps Mason Rudolph, who Browns fans everywhere are familiar with last year with the whole issue, incident with Myles Garrett. And, Mike, if you're in a total points league or a championship league, I'm looking really sideways at starting any Steelers this week. Is it time to sit the Steelers for this week?
Oh, yes. Please, just don't take this kind of risk at this point. Big Ben's worst output this year was better than Mason Rudolph's best last season. Now, I'm not saying numbers that might be wrong, but at the end of the day, I just do not trust Mason Rudolph at all. I do not think he's a good NFL quarterback. And this is an avoidable risk. Don't take it. That would be my advice. Just get him out of your lineup. Every single one of them. I don't think they care to win. I think they just want to get healthy. That's what they're looking at.
This game has zero implications for Pittsburgh. They can't move up, can't move down. Either way, they're going to be the 3 seed heading into the playoffs. And I agree. Your Steelers should be off of your roster, not off your roster, but off of your lineup this week. Mason Rudolph, if you just look at the production last season for Steelers offensive weapons, that tells you everything you need to know. When Ben's not playing, they don't play well usually. So not to say they can't have a breakout here or there, but consistently speaking, especially in a one game that really doesn't matter at the end of the day, I don't see that. And I hate to break it to our commander-in-chief who's in the chat right now, but to me, Mike, and I said this to somebody earlier today, this is just the Steelers saying we're not scared to play the Browns in another week. So, because that would be the only thing that would change if the Steelers start everybody and win, is the Browns likely would not make the playoffs if all the other teams that are favored to win would win. This to me just says, hey, we're not afraid to play you 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
So I don't like to say it. I take no joy in saying that. But it just seems to me that the Steelers are saying, hey, beat us. We don't care. We'll see you the week after at home. So it feels very much like that, my friend.
Yeah. He said Myles Garrett over under 9.5 sacks on Mason Rudolph. If they rest enough linemen, he may get 9.5 sacks. I would take the under though. That's pretty ridiculous. But yeah. We have a couple more questions here. Trey Briggs, thanks for tuning in, man. I don't trust Drake or Sanders. Should I go with Malcolm Brown or Jeff Wilson? Oh, man. So you have the Rams and the 49ers playing each other, right?
Yep. So
who do you like more in that situation? I think I know your answer.
I'm going to give you my pick, Trey, but I'm going to ask you to stay till the end of the show to hear why. Malcolm Brown.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say for now. Coming up in another segment, I'll answer that question. But the immediate answer is Malcolm Brown. The why Malcolm Brown coming up later in the show. Mike, let's talk about the Tua-headed monster, as you put it, down in Miami. The rookie struggled again this week, buddy, leaving the door open for Fitzmagic to come back in and keep the Dolphins away from playoff elimination. Mike, I don't know if you saw this earlier this week, but there are some pundits also located here in the state of Ohio, specifically the southwest corner of the state of Ohio, that are saying that the Dolphins should absolutely not pass up on a quarterback at 3. Mike, I'm not sure what world they're living down there in Cincinnati, my friend, but let's come back to reality for a second. The Dolphins quarterback situation's fine. So,
yeah.
Now, let's look at
Hey, do you mind if I correct myself really quick? I did say Rams were playing Arizona. Or I'm sorry, they're playing the 49ers. They're playing Arizona this week. And that's why I would agree with you. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure we got that right so we didn't lead playmakers astray.
Right. But, Mike, I look at this as more of a mentorship move down in South Florida rather than a legitimate concern at the position. Mike, if you look at the stats, Tua is the only quarterback in the National Football League to throw 10 touchdowns and 0 big fat goose egg interceptions from a clean pocket. Now, that is from a clean pocket, and we alluded to it earlier in the show. The Dolphins' offensive line is god-awful. Mm-hmm. So, Tua, as a rookie, to me, that stat right there says he's not making dumb rookie mistakes, because a dumb rookie would make a mistake even from a clean pocket, right, in most situations. So to me, that means that he's not making those little, mental errors that you see rookies make. Fitz has been through such a crazy season already, but he's taken it in really good stride. And Mike, we talked about Tua and Hurts and tiering and so on and so forth as we move forward. If they can develop an offensive line, I think they have the weapons on offense here and now with Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki, obviously Myles Gaskin, who we'll talk about later in the show. If they can develop an offensive line, it kind of puts us in the same situation as Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. Tua could be a top 10 quarterback in the next 3 years.
Top 10, so, wow. That's a big pick there for you.
Top 5. I'm not putting him in Mahomes, Rodgers, Wilson territory, right? Because obviously those guys, that tier is the upper echelon of quarterbacks in the NFL. But Tua could be a top 10 option, which makes him a viable fantasy option moving forward in the near future.
Yeah, top 10, I think he's around there. And the reason I say that is, look, turnovers are something I obsess about when I'm looking at quarterbacks. It was a reason why I was a little worried about Jalen Hurts coming into the NFL. He fumbled a lot. He just made some really poor decisions. And it was something that I didn't, after being with Saban, and then you go to Kingsbury, and he's just, I'm sorry, not Kingsbury, the Oklahoma coach, I'm blanking on his name right now. He's a guru. Look at Kyler Murray. Look at these guys who have done so well, and he just, still making bad decisions. Look, Fitzpatrick had 13 touchdowns, 8 INTs. Tua has 10 touchdowns and 2 INTs with that bad offensive line. Look, he doesn't take a lot of risks yet, so that's something I want to see him develop. That's what I'm going to watch to see if I think he's a top 10 quarterback. But look after what we saw with Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield. I think it would be really ill-advised to give on something after less than one season, especially when you can go get somebody like Sowell from Oregon or something like that to secure that front for them or something if they can get up in there. I think it would be really stupid to give up on this situation. I just don't understand how somebody is suggesting that at this point. That's not their position of need. And that also, I think what we were talking about prior to the show is that means if you're going to jump there, did you think that quarterback at 3 is an absolute situation changer? Is that much better? Yeah. I just don't see that. I'm not seeing that. They're not getting Trevor Lawrence this year, so I just don't see that for sure.
And I would say even if you were in a position to take Trevor Lawrence, you may trade out of that pick because they have the 3rd overall pick because of their trade with Houston, where they sent Tunzel to Houston. So even if I was at the number 1 overall pick, I don't necessarily know that I would take Lawrence with Tua.
Yeah. Especially if they get something like when RG3 came out where they just got an absolute haul. You have to do it if you have that guy because now your entire team's built and it's through the draft, so it's young and you have several years to get it right.
Exactly. So, well, Mike, the Kansas City Chiefs have done drafting right for several years now, and this is going to lead us into the film room, my friend. Let's talk about our usual unexpected and ugly picks for Week 16. And, Mike, I'm going to give the tight ends a little love this week. I'm going to go with Travis Kelce from the Kansas City Chiefs. And the reason I bring him up, Mike, and everybody goes, well, no dub, he's the best tight end in football. He broke the single-season receiving record, da-da-da. Mike, I'm going to give you a couple stats why this is the usual suspect all season. This last week, 7 catches, 98 yards, touchdown. Typical week. Mike, he's only had 4 weeks where he's had under double-digit production all season. Only 5 games out of 16 where he hasn't caught a touchdown. 6 games with 100-plus yards as a tight end, Mike. So, I mean, we're flirting with goat talk at tight end with Travis Kelce if this continues.
He's breaking records every year.
Breaking records every year, and he's been doing this for a while. It didn't just start with Patrick Mahomes either. So he's been a viable fantasy tight end for a number of years, even prior to Mahomes joining the Chiefs. So he is my usual suspect this week. And Mike, a guy we just talked about down in Miami for my unexpected performance this week, Myles Gaskin, running back for the Dolphins, 14 carries, 87 yards, matched almost those yardage totals with 5 catches for 82 yards and 2 scores through the air on Saturday. Mike, what a way to come back from missing a few weeks due to COVID. But Gaskin's had a great year when he's been available. You know? If you look at it in that micro sense, he's had a great year when he's been on the field. And if you weren't paying attention to him this season, I really hope you are as we look forward into 2021. And we'll obviously go through that in the offseason and look at performances from this year, who's trending up, who's trending down in terms of, throwback leagues and dynasty leagues and things like that.
Yeah.
But Mike, this is a guy I'm really going to pay close attention to heading into 2021. And I think a lot of the playmakers are going to do that.
Yeah.
So,
and that's with a bad offensive line, like we said.
Yeah, with a bad offensive line and a rookie quarterback. So, it's an impressive start. And that's one of the other things I love about Tua is he's finding those outlets right. He's finding those outlets like Gaskin and you've had his name escapes me, the receiver / running back the last few years as your pick for Wirefire. He's finding these options, these guys in dump offs and things like that. So that's how great offenses work. Look at the Chiefs and the Saints. It's just how good offenses work, my friend. Michael My Ugly this week, and this is a guy who's had kind of an up and down year. I know he's dealing with a little bit of a lower leg injury. It's nagging him heading into Week 17 against the Rams. And that's Kyler Murray, quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals, 31 of 50 for 247 and an interception last week. Mike's had a 13-5 touchdown-interception ratio since the bye week. And given that injury and the fact that he's going against the Rams this week, my friend, I would be sitting Kyler Murray this week.
Yep, and that Rams defense is also why I would pick Brown over Drake. I can't get over that. I am so sorry. I can't get that out of my brain. Never mind. Just let's move on from that because I am so stupid. It's stuck, and I can't get it out of there.
It's all right. Let's move on to your usual, my friend.
My usual is Stephon Diggs. He ended up being the 12th wide receiver on the year, had 120 catches and 8 touchdowns. And this last week, he stayed on course and did a little better at 9 receptions, 145 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Look, he just absolutely balled out. I actually watched in one league, the championship game came down to the one guy was up by like 20-some points, Diggs, and it was over quick. Diggs just blew up and just ended up coming back and taking it all. Look, I love that future prospects. This is one in a dynasty. I actually think one of the early questions. I got a question on Twitter today. Somebody was asking about they had 4 guys, they can keep 3, and this was he was one of the people they listed, and I thought Diggs was one of the guys they should keep. I really, really love that setup and just how much they've improved and the continuity in Buffalo. And I also think with how bad the Patriots are, it's like you wonder how that division is. It could be good matchups several times a year, and the Jets are always a great matchup. So I really like that. My unexpected this week, I love big running backs. If anybody knows anything about me, A.J. Dillon, man, Green Bay lit it up. He had 25.96 points, 21 rushes, 124 yards, 1 reception, and 2 touchdowns. Look, Green Bay just went to their version of Derrick Henry in the cold. Yeah. Look, he was a real bruiser, and he just got big on them Titans. Like, he just was downhill, running hard. That was something that was really exciting for me as well. That's 3 solid running backs in that Green Bay backfield.
That's turning into a really scary scenario with already having Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
And the rest of those receivers didn't have 3 running backs that really any one of them can come on the field and go. That's a scary situation in Green Bay.
It just speaks to the efficiency of that offense. When we were asked for some advice on that player playing against the Packers, I was very confident that I could predict the game flow. Packers are going to get a lead, and you're going to have to try to either keep pace with them or you're going to get run out of the gym. Titans got run out of the gym this week, and I thought that would lend to some good numbers for the Titans wide receivers. Titans just didn't have it all around, but yeah, that team, that offensive efficiency, love it. Yeah. Ugly. Oh man, that was just rough. I would say the nasty one was we had our boy Derrick. Actually, Derrick Henry was fine this week. I'm sorry. I deleted my note here.
He didn't have a great week.
But he didn't have a great week. So for a top 5-6 pick, I'm going to go Derrick Henry here. Let's let him eat that one for this week.
Fair enough.
Yeah. You could also go with the entire Browns offense, especially the running backs, who everyone was really excited about.
I don't necessarily know that I'm more upset with the running backs as I am with the play calling and the fact that they were missing 2 linemen. So
yeah,
two of the better linemen in the league, matter of fact.
Yeah, I think people just thought they could still start Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt going into that, but it just was that was, as a Browns fan, I'm just going to tell you, that was incredibly disappointing. Yeah, incredibly disappointing. Yeah, and then Derrick Henry, only 9.8 points. I want some more out of a top 10 pick and a big running back in the cold weather. A.J. Dillon won that matchup for me.
Yes, he did. Michael, our matchups every week, my friend, boil down to our weekly locks, and we both got a point this week, my friend. Look at us go. My lock from last week, Zach Moss, running back for the Buffalo Bills, had 12 rushes, 57 yards, and a touchdown. As I said last week, Michael, as DJ Khaled once famously said, another one, my friend. I'm up to 10 this year. You had Jeff Wilson Jr., we alluded to those big running backs you love so much, and, buddy, give you the point, my friend. Give yourself a woo.
Woo! Give me that point.
So 184 yards, 21 carries, or I'm sorry, 21 receiving yards, and then that receiving touchdown. So big win over Arizona for the 49ers. Mike, I'm going to go first this week. My pick, and this is a guy who 5-6 years ago was a must start every week, and that's T.Y. Hilton, wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts. Playing the Jags this week, Mike, who are just bad all around on defense, right? Mm-hmm. And they're fighting for their playoff lives in Indy. So that means Uncle Phil's going to be slinging it around. Rivers is finding him more and more in those go-to type situations. If you watch the tape, I went back and watched a little bit of this Steelers-Colts game this past Monday, and if you look in those I need it sort of situations, he's going to T.Y. Hilton more and more often, which is eventually going to lead to some touchdowns. So I think T.Y. Hilton should have a strong week this week. Michael Pittman's drawing a little more coverage now. Obviously, those running backs out of the backfield are electric with Nyheim Hines and Jonathan Taylor. So my pick this week, my friend, T.Y. Hilton.
All right.
What say you?
All right, I really wanted to challenge it, and this is surprising here. Michael Gallup. Look, I loved him to start the year when they had a healthy Dak Prescott. They obviously hit that terrible patch, so he's not really owned in, I think it's like 44% of some leagues. Look, Giants are kind of underrated as a defense, but I really like the matchup this week. And what's crazy that this is a playoff game, despite both teams not having a winning record. Go get Michael Gallup if you are in a tight spot. If you have a Kansas City wide receiver, if you have anybody on the Steelers, stuff like that, this is a guy that you might be able to pick up. And I feel like he's generally a little bit more boom or bust, but he's a guy I could see having a boom week. We got a question in the chat here. Trey Briggs again. Sterling Shepard or Mike Williams? Remind you, Mike Williams is playing Kansas City backup defensive backs. He had 10 of 33 pass attempts by Herbert last week, targeting him. So I would go Mike Williams here. I don't love Sterling Shepard here. I mean, it's not a bad match, but I'm very worried about that Giants offense right now.
Yeah, I think that sort of, man, that's a coin flip if I've ever seen one. The way I'd probably lean here, I think, is the opposite. I think I'm leaning Sterling Shepard. I think that matchup against Cowboys secondary has been good for most receivers this year. I know at one point they were giving up the most fantasy points to wide receivers. I don't know if that's still the case, but I know the Cowboys secondary has been terrible all season long.
It's a bad secondary. The only thing the Giants, I'm sorry,
the Giants are not eliminated.
No, that's what I'm saying. This is an actual playoff game. Like, this is insane to me. Like,
eliminated, but
Giants,
not eliminated.
Yeah, I just think Mike Williams target share. That's why I like it. I don't think you're going wrong with Sterling Shepard either. I just lean a little more to Mike Williams.
Either way.
Yeah.
But obviously we have our picks on both sides of that. So, and I don't necessarily know how many of the backup has it been reported that Kansas City's sitting all their defense? I know offense, but
they're pretty much I think they're sitting as a bunch of starters. I would expect them to sit anybody if anybody has anything nagging.
Guys like that.
Anybody who's not replaceable, pretty much. So
right, no,
it depends how deep they are.
See, I think either way, Trey, you're good either way with that one, my friend. Obviously, you got both of our takes, so take those for what you will.
Yeah.
So. But, Michael, let's jump into Hell No, Hell Yeah, my friend. And earlier we talked a little bit about the Dolphins and their quarterback struggles, Mike. And I think we'd all agree that the offensive line in Miami is the biggest issue. We mentioned about taking a guy like Sewell out of Oregon or whoever their tackle of choice is. Mike, hell no, hell yeah. If the Dolphins go anything other than tackle or offensive line, we'll just say offensive line at number 3, is it a wasted pick in April?
Hell yeah. We spoiled it earlier on this one. Look, they suck up front right now. They drafted Austin Jackson, and right now he's not it. They should take the best available offensive lineman, and they should be able to get a good one this year at 3. Sewell from Oregon, as you said, I see him coming off the board. If you see a value where you can trade back and still pick up a good offensive lineman, I could see them doing that just to try to continue to add value, as they have a pretty good young core there. But yeah, I think they need to add multiple. Honestly, this is a year where I think they should have the ugliest, fattest draft out there. Just put a bunch of big uglies and add them to the roster. And if they don't, I really don't like the quarterback choice, as we discussed earlier. That would to me, would be just absolutely stupid. So I'm out on the quarterback for them. But go big boys.
I agree, man. More love for the big uglies. I appreciate that as one of them. So. Yeah. Mike, we haven't really got a chance to talk much about this, and I think because it brought pain for me and joy for you, so we avoided it. And that's Alvin Kamara's monster week. He had those 6 touchdowns for the Saints on Christmas Day. Arguably could have been 7 if Taysom Hill wouldn't have vultured one from him. I think Sean Payton wanted to get Taysom some love. Mike, hell no, hell yeah, and I've seen this a lot this week. Is Alvin Kamara the best running back in fantasy? And I'll even go a step further. Is he the best running back in football?
You are upsetting me because I just rode his tails to a championship, man. I had him going, and I have 60 points in my league because that one has a bonus for like certain plays. So 60 points for me. But do I think he's the best running back in football? I have to say hell no. Hell no. To the no, no, no. Hell to the no. And that was hard to say.
All right,
I am loving him.
I did not look ahead. I want to hear this, and you get my reaction fresh here. Let's do it.
So and for fantasy right now, I don't know if you can top him, but when healthy, I think Saquon Barkley is the best back in the NFL, and in fantasy, he catches the ball so well, he breaks tackles, he makes something out of nothing. I mean, early in the season when they were struggling, like he was getting literally no blocking in New York. My other worry here for Alvin Kamara is that he does lose some thunder to Latavius Murray. It's just the way the Saints offense works. They spread the ball around. So is 6 touchdowns incredible? Absolutely. And will we see that again? Probably not in our lifetime. But each week there's the possibility that he's not going to get it done because of how they spread it around. It's nothing to do with him. So that's where fantasy, I think he's going to stay in that 4 or 5 range. In terms of running backs, I like what Saquon and a few other guys can do a little bit more. If I have a choice, though, you're winning. Alvin Kamara is top tier for sure.
See, and JMM6 just stole a little bit of my thunder in chat. 2 so-so seasons in a row for Barkley, and yes, it has been because of injuries, right? Mm-hmm. But man, Alvin Kamara and Dalvin Cook, Mike, for my money, are 1A, 1B, and because they do it all, my friend. And I'm actually going to use one of your points against you, and you mentioned, the Saints and a little bit of Latavius Murray carnivoring some of those carries and touches. Mm-hmm. Mike, I think there's something to be said for that. Murray's getting as many touches as he is, and we went back through and looked at the Giants' backup running back production over the last few years, a couple shows ago, if you remember. Yeah. I think there's something to be said for Kamara's production, even having that as a challenge, as a hurdle to go through every year, having Murray take some of those touches, and he's still putting up consistent, crazy numbers for fantasy and performing as well as he has just in a general football sense. So I see you say that as a fantasy or as a thing that heeds him. I say that's something that helps uphold his value, in my opinion. An
argument I could make for that is that Kamara, because he splits some of those touches down the stretch, he is healthy to have a 6 touchdown game, right? He is not beat up, and as JSE JM6, 2 seasons in a row with injuries. He's actually the guy, I think he asked me the question on Twitter today. He was asking who he should keep. He has Barkley. He's very upset about Barkley being hurt.
Here's a crazy scenario. Our Dynasty League that Big Play Eddie runs. the guy who won the championship actually released Barkley. Released him like 4 or 5 weeks ago.
And this is it. And how many can you keep? 3 or 6?
6.
I don't
He
understand.
released him.
I don't understand it.
I think he has a crystal ball down there at a little bar here in town. He's got a little crystal ball in the back room. So.
I don't know, but
and of course, Big Play Eddie picked Barkley up like 10 hours later. So because I did see it in time.
yeah.
Or he been on my team. So what do you got for me, buddy?
All right, we have. Oh, I'm sorry. Quick question: drop Rivers for Tannehill? Yes.
Yes, not even a question. Tannehill's a top 6 quarterback.
I'm so on Tannehill's train. Yes, I'm so on Tannehill's train and Rivers, especially this week. Yeah, the Titans.
Fabian, go back and watch our show from last week, my friend.
Yeah.
I bow down to the god that is Ryan Tannehill. So.
I love that you finally converted. Joined my team.
I'm converted to Tannehillism.
Yeah, no, I mean he's outside of this last week. He was incredibly consistent. So, and I don't think that's going to happen again against the Texans.
The Waynesboro bit the Tannehill.
Oh my gosh, were they doing it with Steven Tyler or whatever?
Oh, Alice Cooper, bro.
Oh, I'm sorry. Don't they do it in the movie? They find Steven Tyler and Alice. They do it to everybody.
I think in one of them they do find Steven Tyler, but the one that's most notable is Alice Cooper, and he sticks out his hand.
That's right. That's fair. That's fair. That's a good reference right there, Blake. Nice work. All right, Blake. Hell no, hell yeah. It's gonna piggyback off what we were just talking about. Do you feel comfortable selecting Christian McCaffrey or Saquon Barkley in the 1 or 2 spot next season?
Hell no.
Hell no. To the no, no, no. Hell to the no.
And I had to think about this one for a little bit. I read ahead in the notes because I didn't want to be caught off guard. But I don't even necessarily know it's more because of the injuries. I just don't know what these offenses are going to look like over the next 2 to 3 years. I feel a lot more confident in an offense like the Vikings or the Saints with a guy like Kamara or Cook, or even a guy like Zeke with a healthy Dak. I know Zeke's having a down year, but I think that's a lot to do with Dak being out. So, comfortable? No. Would I still do it? Probably.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you.
Yeah. I mean, would I still do it? Probably. Probably McCaffrey. I don't think I would do Barkley 1 or 2. I can tell you that right now. If I have 1 or 2 in any of my leagues next year, throwback leagues, if you're in my leagues, listen up. I'm not going Barkley if I have the 1st or 2nd pick. Just throwing it out there. So,
wow.
Especially if the Saints retain Drew Brees and he comes back for another year, I will not take Barkley at 1 or 2.
You'll take Kamara over Barkley there.
I would take Cook and Kamara over Barkley right now.
Yeah, I can make that argument for you. I can agree with. I can see where you're coming from there, but
I still think Saquon's a top 5 running back. I think in no particular order, your top 5 to 6 running backs are all the guys we've just mentioned here in the last 10 minutes, right? So
yeah,
that's McCaffrey, Barkley, Cook, Kamara, Saquon, Zeke.
I think there's two.
That's the top tier right now.
Yeah, we're probably getting way ahead of ourselves here, but the big thing I'm going to watch is: do we have an actual off season? Do we have a preseason where I get to see Barkley? Yeah, and is he going to be healthy week 1? That for me, my top 2 picks, I want them healthy week 1. If it's even week 1 out, I'm going to put somebody else above that. I want them producing week in, week out to make it to the playoffs. I mean, in how many leagues people miss it by what? 1 win or a couple points, and so I think you have to go somebody who's going to be starting. McCaffrey, I actually feel a little better about.
I feel
next
okay
year.
About
next
McCaffrey.
year, just because I think that offense seems to be, they're going to continue to improve. I think they have some pieces they have to put in there, but I think they seem to have a good system going so far.
Yep.
All right, Blake, this is a little more fun question. Last week we did a lot of Christmas and holiday questions. We're going to keep that theme going. Hell no, hell yeah. In a normal year, are you a New Year's Eve bar scene or over a house party scene?
Oh, man. So I'm going to say hell no to the bar scene and hell yes to the house party.
To the no, no, no. Hell to the no.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm a big... I enjoy... Don't get me wrong, I like going out to a bar and supporting our local bars here in town. I enjoy going out and having a beer. But like I said, the guy that won our Dynasty League owns a bar here downtown in my hometown, which go check him out, Overtime Bar and Grill, Massillon, Ohio. But Mike, I've never been a big bar guy. I've never been a big bar guy. I would rather drink beer here. I have a bar in Studio B just down across the room from me here. I have, a bonfire pit out back. I would much rather drink a beer around my bar here at the house and my big screen and what I want to watch versus going to, whatever bar and seeing 20 people that I graduated with that I have no desire to talk to.
I couldn't agree more.
In my early 20s, it was the opposite.
Yeah.
And especially when I was downtown Cleveland, I was working for the Browns, different things. Downtown, it was different then. But now that I'm home and married and, got my son and family started, I've always been more of a homebody by nature, but yeah, definitely a bigger house party guy.
I find that New Year's Eve is the amateur hour of going out.
Oh, yes.
The people who don't do it very often, they do it all big, they hype it up way too much. A very common thing people think about New Year's Eve is gets way too much hype, and then they just blow it. They're crying, they're too drunk, they can't get to the bar, they're upset, they can't find their date.
New Year's Eve and St. Patrick's Day are both like that. The veterans drinking holiday is Thanksgiving's Eve.
Oh, yeah. That's a great one. I actually do like that for the local ones. Yeah. I personally love St. Patrick's Day, so I'm going to cool that comment from you, but we'll be okay.
I didn't say it's a bad holiday to go out on.
It's the best.
That's another amateur hour one where you got drunk 22-year-olds.
Oh, yeah. The rapid going into downtown Cleveland and stuff.
Oh, it's miserable.
Yeah.
I went down there once for St. Patrick's Day. What a crap show. As a kid said.
Yeah.
Mike, let's do some wire fire, buddy. We're gonna let you start first this week, buddy. Let's roll with your picks this week.
Okay. Well, I think everyone should not be surprised if they've been watching the show. My running back I'm going to go with is A.J. Dillon. He's only owned in 8% of Yahoo leagues. If you are desperate, if where running back is being set, if you just need to plug somebody in, this is a guy that he's probably going to get some touches because they probably want to get Jamal Williams healthy and Aaron Jones. They want to keep healthy as they get into the playoffs, as he's seems to be their number one. So I think A.J. Dillon's going to get some touches here. They're going to kind of let him get used to the offense, get into the groove here. So he's a guy, only 8% of the leagues. He's probably going to get some good burn this week. Another person, this is actually very similar to what you were talking about earlier when you talked about T.Y. Hilton. Look, the Colts have to win to have a shot to get into the playoffs, and they're playing the Houston Texans. Look, Pascal's had 2 decent weeks in a row, and honestly, if you are in a league that goes into week 17, you very well could be in the situation where you just have to find somebody who's going to get a decent target share and in the red zone. He's only owned in 5%, so he's out there if you need somebody. He does not get a ton of targets. He gets about 6 each week, which is okay. I'm sorry, they're not playing the Texans. They're playing the Jaguars. I keep doing this. Look, the Jaguars are 1-14 for a reason. Look, if he can get in the end zone on one of those 6 targets, he could have a very good week that could really help these managers get over the hump in the last week of the season or high points in the year. You just got to be active out there, and that's especially in deep leagues. It's going to be tough if it's a high points league.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So, yeah. And Mike, I already had mentioned who my running back is this week on Wirefire. That is Malcolm Brown of the Los Angeles Rams, only owned in 31.9% of ESPN.com leagues. And the playmakers in chat knew exactly what I was going to say. Henderson's heading to the IR. Akers is banged up. Brown is going to be the guy this week. And Mike, Jared Goff is also out this week, which means it'll be a run-heavy game plan. So I really think that the Rams are going to go into Arizona and try to ball control this game. They know Kyler Murray's hurt a little bit. They are banged up, so he's going to be not 100%. They obviously know they're not 100%, and they're going to just try to grind out a defensive win. And I think how they do that is through the running game. So, which has been for the Rams over the last 6 weeks pretty good. So the running game for the Rams has been the highlight of their offense in the games that they've won. So, I think that's going to be the focus for the Rams this week. And Mike, I'm going to change it up a little bit. I mentioned earlier in the show we're giving the tight end some love this week. I'm going to scrap my receiver pick for the week. I'm going tight end, my friend. Flipping the script on you. Going Irv Smith Jr.
Heck
of
yes.
Minnesota Vikings, owned in 6.1% of ESPN.com league. So if you're a Travis Kelce owner, if you're any of the owners of these guys that are going to be sitting or maybe not playing as much this week, maybe if you're a Gronk owner or whoever,
Yeah.
Definitely go take a look at Irv Smith Jr. Kyle Rudolph's dealing with some injuries that have been nagging him. And the youngster's been on a tear, man. He's had 5 touchdowns since week 9. Been targeted 9 times last week. Has had 3 or more catches the last 3 weeks. And Mike, Kirk Cousins loves this kid on the goal line. His 2 touchdown catches last week came from 2 and 4 yards.
Yep.
So if they're not giving it to Cook to punch in, he's looking for Irv Smith, especially with Kyle Rudolph out. So if you need a plug and play tight end just for this week, Irv Smith Jr. likelihood of getting a touchdown probably better than anybody else you're going to pick up at the position this week. So,
Yeah. That's a solid play.
Yeah,
Blake.
we could go into more receivers, and I looked at the receivers that are available out there, and it's we've been saying it for the last 4 or 5 weeks. The waiver wire pool at this point in the season is a desolate wasteland. You almost hope these good teams lose a few games so they have to play for something week 17. And we talked about it last week on the show. I remember a situation, I don't know, it was probably 10, 12 years ago where I had Peyton Manning going into a championship weekend. It was week 16. The Colts were on one of those 14-2 years, and Peyton Manning played 1 drive. And sat down, drank coffee the rest of the game. So it was a rough weekend in the Seidler house. So, but guys, we hope you guys have had a good weekend. Hope you had a happy holiday season. We wish everybody a happy New Year. We hope you all stay safe this coming New Year's Eve on Thursday. Like we said, it's amateur hour out there, so be careful, be smart. But guys, go give us a follow over on Twitter at WTW_podcast. That's where the show goes live each and every week at 9:30 Eastern on Tuesday. Give our parent account a follow at BigPlay_com. That's where our entire lineup of great shows go out every week. You have the Yacht Club on Monday. Right after him is the Big Play Cleveland Reflog Show. We have Big Play Dave checking in on the chat earlier. He hosts that one for us. Tuesdays, we have Birdland BS. Our guys over in Maryland bringing you everything. Baltimore, Maryland Terps, everything for your D.C. area teams as well, I believe. So, Working the Wire, we're here 9:30s right after them. Wednesday, we have Nick Padone with Padone My Take. In the backfield with Peyton Hillis, Browns former running back, on Thursdays. And then the newbies of the group Voice of the Land on Sundays, bringing you your Cleveland Browns post-game beats. Anything else from the Playmakers, buddy? Great involvement from the Playmakers again for the 4th week in a row. Keep it up, guys.
Yeah, we'd love it. Keep bringing it. We really appreciate it. And hit us up Sunday. If you have any last-second changes or questions, we got you.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll send out our tweet as we do every Sunday morning, prepping you guys for the big games ahead. And if you need our help, we are always here to help. And I'm sure next week we'll dive into, we'll obviously recap this week. We'll probably do a little bit of daily fantasy stuff. And then maybe we'll bring the curtain back a little bit on what we might be doing this offseason. So with that said, buddy, anything else?
That's it for me.
Excellent, guys. Well, hey, great show, Mike. Playmakers, we appreciate you tuning in as always. Best of luck